Hi, I'm Kelsey from Crafting for Weeks, and today I'm going to be walking you through how I do tapestry for my single layer Luxe Leopard headband. Now this is a graph. This is what I use for most of my tapestry patterns. Today I'm going to be using these first 10 squares. For my main color I'm using tan. For my contrasting I'm using black, and my accent color is going to be brown. Now I'm going to start by chaining 11 because I'm just using those first 10 squares as I mentioned. So I want to have 11 stitches so I have one for a turning chain. Now if this is your first time using a graph, just so you know, each of those squares on the graph is going to count as one stitch. So I will show you how I'm working color changes as I go. Okay, so I have my chain 11, and I'm going to go ahead and start right in on the graph. Okay, so since those first two boxes are my main color, I'm going to go ahead and single crochet in that second chain from the hook, and I'm going to start my single crochet in the following chain. But before I pull through, I'm going to actually change color because my third box right there has my accent color. So I'm going to pull through with my accent color, and that is how you complete a color change. Okay, so I'm going to tuck that tail out of the way, and then I'm going to carry my main color with me. So what I'm going to do is kind of pinch it along the back of that stitch. Then I'm going to put my hook through the chain and around that yarn that I'm carrying. And because I have another color change right away on my chart, I'm not going to pull through. I'm going to actually add my contrasting color of black, and I'm going to pull that color through. And again, I'm going to try to pull those tails out of the way so they're not getting in the way of the carried yarn. Okay, so at this point I'm going to be carrying 2 strands of yarn. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of hold them along the base of the stitches. I'm going to insert my hook into the next chain and wrap that stitch around both strands of yarn. And as you can see, we're going to go back to our main color here. So I'm not going to pull through. I'm actually going to switch back to the main color for 3 stitches. Now, when you're carrying 3 strands, it can get tangled. So the best way to do it is to have each skein in its own spot and to try to keep those strands pulling from the same area. So I'm going to yarn over with the main color and pull through the last 2 loops, and then I'm going to pull those strands down so I'm carrying my other 2 strands and complete the next 3 stitches. As you can see, I'm just kind of pinching those 2 strands along the base of my row and working my stitches around them. Now I have one more stitch here before I'm going to do another color change. But as you can see, the first row or 2 is a little bit fiddly as you're getting your yarn situated. Once you get through the first row or 2, it's a little bit easier to keep your strands sorted out. Okay, so now I'm doing a color change to black. I'm going to do 2 stitches with the black, and then I'll have one more of the main color. Okay, so I'm going to complete my second stitch with the black, and since it's a color change, I'm going to sort out my strands quickly, and then I'm going to pull through with the main color because that's the next stitch. Now I want to pay attention to what my next color is on the following row so I know what color to pull through that very last stitch. And it looks like the next stitch on the second row is actually the main color, so I won't have to pull through with a different color. I will go ahead and complete my last stitch, and then I'll chain 1 so we can turn. Now as you can see, this is going to be the back of my work, and I've decided this is the back because I can see color peeking through. Now there are 2 methods to work back across. You can do it the same way you came and pull the yarn to the front instead of the back, or you can use reverse single crochet. Now that's the stitch we're going to be working in. We're going to start by looping these carried strands up so our hook will go underneath of them. We're going to insert the hook from the back to the front underneath of those strands. And then the next part is a little bit tricky. We're going to yarn over and we're going to twist that hook so we get our single crochet on the opposite side of the work. Then we're going to yarn over, and since it's a color change right away, tricky, we're going to pull through with that second color. Okay, so we have switched to black. Now we're going to carry the other two strands and we're going to do the same thing from the back to the front. Catch that yarn, and when we pull it through, we're going to rotate our hook and then yarn over and pull through. Now you want to make sure that when you go from the back to the front, you're catching those two carried strands, that they go above your hook. And as I mentioned, the first row or two can be a little bit fiddly while you get your yarn situated, so bear with me. But we're going to do the same thing, rotate the hook. Now we're getting ready for a color change, so we're going to try our best not to tangle the yarn too much, but it does happen a bit. And then we're going to yarn over with that main color. Now you'll notice as I'm working, I'm pinching that yarn along the front of my row. If you were doing plain single crochet across, you would hold that yarn in the same spot, but I'm going to continue doing reverse single crochet. Once I get the row completed, I'll show you why. Okay, so I'm going to continue working. I have a few main color stitches, and then I have two more color changes before I get across. So here's my second main color, back to the front, rotate, and then I'm going to switch colors here. I'm going to find my contrasting color, which is black, doing my best to untangle as I go, and I'm going to pull through with that color. Here I am pinching the yarn to the front, putting the hook from the back to the front, yarn over, rotate, and pull through. So I'm going to continue working across the row in the same manner. I've got a color change coming up after this stitch. So once I get it through the first half of the stitch here, I want to be sure to yarn over and pull through with my next color on the chart, which is my accent color of brown. I've got two brown stitches, and then I've got one in my main color, and I'll be done with this row. Now, as you're getting used to doing reverse single crochet, it can seem a little bit slow. However, as you get better at it, and as your yarn gets more situated, as in you're not working your first two rows, it will go a lot faster. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish these last couple stitches, and then I will meet you at the end of the row and explain why I chose reverse single crochet instead of standard single crochet. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row. I'm going to chain one and turn. And here you can see the front of my work. Now, this is the back. You can see how it's a lot messier, but the front is nice and clean. And that's why I chose reverse single crochet. If I had come back across my row the same way I went, those colors that were peeking out the back would peek out the front when I came back. So I feel like the neatest way to do tapestry crochet in rows is to actually do reverse single crochet on your return passes. Now I'm going to go ahead and do another row of single crochet across, and remember this is the front side now, so I'm going to do standard single crochet, and then I'll go back again with reverse single crochet so you can watch me. Now you'll notice that I'm going a lot quicker this time through, and that's partially because I've already explained everything I need to explain, and partially because my yarn is a little bit more situated. I'm not adding strands, so it's a little bit easier to just work across. Okay, so here I am wrapping up this row. I'm going to chain one and turn, and then I'm going to come back across with my reverse single crochet. So now I have a big chunk of main color here, so no color changes. That always makes things go a little bit quicker. But I just want to demonstrate and kind of walk you through how to come back across one more time. So I'm going to identify that first stitch, insert the hook from the back to the front. Make sure those strands are above my hook, and then I'm going to catch that yarn, pull through, rotate, yarn over, and pull through two. That's my first reverse single crochet. Okay, now I have 5 more in this main color, and then I'm going to be switching to my contrasting color of black. Okay, you'll insert from the back of the stitch. Make sure those 2 strands go over. Catch the yarn, pull it through, rotate, yarn over, and pull through 2. Okay, and you'll continue that for 4 more stitches, and then we'll do a quick color change. Okay, so on this stitch we're going to be coming through the back, rotating, and we're going to be doing our color change here. So we're going to pull up the contrasting color and pull that through the last 2 loops. Bring that carried yarn back to the front. Okay, we're going to do 3 stitches in the black, inserting from the back to the front, pulling through, and pull through 2. Okay, here on this 3rd black stitch we are going to be doing our last color change of the row. I'm going to be catching that yarn, pulling it through, and instead of pulling through with the black, we're going to switch back to our main color for the very last stitch. So we're going to pull this yarn forward, yarn over, and pull through 2. Then we're going to complete our last stitch of the row. So we're going to be inserting from the back to the front, And sometimes these edge stitches can be a little bit tight, so just be aware of that. We're going to be yarning over, pull through and rotate, yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, we'll chain 1 to turn, and here you can see our finished work from the front. Now there's a big difference. That's the back. You can see a lot of the color peeking through. And here we have the front, which is pretty clean. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial about how to reverse single crochet. And I hope you enjoy making the Luxe Leopard Headband in the single layer or the double layer version.